Good evening, Region 6, Region 5, Berbice. Welcome to another program of Alliance on the Move. I'm David Patterson, the General Secretary, and with me this evening is Khemraj Ramjattan, the leader of the Alliance for Change. We're pleased that you can join us this evening. We have a few topics that we'd like to discuss with you, primarily the goings on in the Public Accounts Committee. As you know, there is quite a few developments in that area. Khemraj, the leader, will have a few words on crime. I think it's important we speak about COVID and the government's response and your responsibility on COVID. And of course, if time permits, we would like to look at some interesting developments in infrastructure. Good afternoon, good evening, Khemraj. How are you?
I am doing fine. Thanks very much, David. I noticed that the video might not be on here.
It's on. We're recording.
Oh, so we're recording. Okay.
Right. So, Khemraj, let's start off with the Public Accounts Committee. As you know, the Public Accounts Committee was set up by the Constitution of Guyana, and it's been in operational now for I think about 6 parliaments. The standing orders of the Parliament states very clearly in Clause 82.2 that the Public Accounts Commission must be chaired by a member of the nominee of the main opposition, and that has been happening from the time it has been set up. For folks who are not aware of what the Public Accounts Committee does, that is the Committee of Parliament. It is made up of both opposition and government. It is chaired, as I started off saying, by a nominee of the main opposition. And that committee is responsible for looking into the public accounts, the public spending from any public source of fund by the government, whichever government it is. So therefore, obviously, during our tenure, during our administration, we had the Public Accounts, which was headed by Irfan Ali at that time, that examined how we spent the public money. The Auditor General, of course, who is a constitutional person, he prepares a report once a year where he examines all the various ministries and departments, constitutional agencies, and that report goes to Parliament, goes to the Speaker. The Speaker gives it to all parliamentarians, in particular the Public Accounts Committee, and then what happens is the Public Accounts Committee would summon each and every ministry individually and go through, and they would appear at Public Accounts Committee live in person, and the committee would go through how they would have dispersed the fundings for that particular year. At the moment, the Public Accounts Committee are examining the accounts for 2016. So yes, folks, we're 5 years behind on our examination of the accounts. The committee was only established in January of this year. We've only had an opportunity, and I'm a member, I am the current chairman. We've only had an opportunity to examine 3 or 4 agencies so far, and then we have an issue and a challenge with the chairmanship. But I'll let Khemraj explain the challenge with the chairmanship, since he is far more eloquent and legal on this matter. Khemraj?
Thank you very much, David. The issue here is obviously one in which the PPP members in that Public Accounts Committee seem not to understand that they are trying, by virtue of a no confidence motion against you, to dismantle what is an extremely important institution of democracy. In the Public Accounts Committee, which is a subcommittee of Parliament, the function is to ensure that there be public scrutiny of the financial affairs of our country, and to ensure that the Auditor General's report is scrutinized. It can do a number of other things, but largely it is the scrutiny of the finances of the country. And in accordance with the history of this committee, it all started in England long years ago, 200-300 years ago, or 150 years ago, I think, in the year 1861. This 1861, so that will be about 150 years ago, whereby the Public Accounts Committee was established for purposes of scrutinize how government spends the money. And always since that year, we have had the chairperson of it being from the opposition party or the main opposition party. And so if it is the Conservatives 1 year won the elections, the Labour Party as the opposition party or the main opposition party in the 1930s, the Liberal Democrats had a lot of seats too in England. And so you had the Labour Party as the main opposition party having the chairmanship of that. Why that is so is because you wanted pure financial independence in the arrangement. And that is why the opposition party always had the chairmanship of that committee, that standing committee. In Guyana here, from all the years we know, the Public Accounts Committee was chaired by the opposition member, a member from the opposition. And that opposition member is selected by the opposition party parliamentarians. We, at the beginning of this 12th parliament, selected David Patterson. It was through a committee of selection, and they adopted that and so on. All of a sudden, we now see a no confidence motion being brought against David Patterson, and that is so strikingly reprehensible an approach. We have also indicated that once it is the opposition call, the government has to respect the opposition appointee. It is like the government members will appoint whosoever they want in the various other committees, but this committee, under the standing orders, has it quite clear. The chairperson should be selected by the opposition party. An analogy I would like to give is that the opposition members in parliament will select the leader of the opposition. You cannot now go and have the government members, because they constitute a majority, 33, they can go and say that we don't like Mr. Harman, we have no confidence in Mr. Harman, and he shouldn't be the leader of the opposition. Similarly, in relation to this Public Accounts Committee, it is not for the government to say who is improper or unfit. It is for the opposition to say who is proper and unfit, and you go be the chairman there, as in the case of we are saying with Mr. David Patterson. So it is startlingly repugnant for the PPP now to want to go dislodge the member who we find fit and proper for that position. And if they want to say that they have no confidence because of certain charges which are totally baseless and only to character assassinate Mr. David Patterson, they cannot use that. They had what is called Irfan Ali as the person that was there for the last 5 years. Irfan Ali was charged, and I think 19 charges he had, and the DPP charged him. And there was a basis for those charges. We have a scenario here whereby we never, as government in that last 5 years, because of we know that there is a certain non-violability of Standing Order 82, that they must come from the opposition. We respected that from selection of the PPP whilst in opposition, namely Irfan Ali. And I cannot understand, because also we wanted to respect the non-violability of that standing order. You want to scrutinize the APNU AFC finances? If they want to put Irfan Ali, well, fine. We didn't make a row about it. We just don't understand why they are not reciprocating. Look, there is a certain regard that we must pay to our standing orders. To come to disqualify somebody like that and through this method is wholly nonsensical. It is totally illegal and against the standing orders. And we are urging, now that we have made our statements on the matter and we see what the PPP is trying to do, I say this, we have to stop it. We have to internationalize this thing. We have to regionalize this thing. The PPP wants not to have the best man as the chairman there. There is there is benefit in having a David Patterson who knows this thing very well, in going around ensuring that we have him as the chairperson. But Bishop Edgehill and all of them, right up to Gail Teixeira, who ought to know better. Who ought to know better, because since 2006, I think we changed the standing orders to ensure that the thing is in black and white there. The main opposition must be the caller of the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. I've been going through this thing thoroughly, and to the extent of that thoroughness, it is quite clear that they can't even touch that. So I will be urging that the committee gets on with its work and ensure that there is no stymieing of that work. The PPP wants to give the impression that it is the chairperson is stalling the process. We are not stalling the process at all.
Yeah.
The PPP by virtue of this no confidence motion.
So let me explain to the viewers exactly where we are at the moment. So when the Accounts Committee met in February, just before the budget, Madam Gail Teixeira moved the motion saying that they have no confidence in chairman, who that is me, and give no reason. She said she don't have to give any reasons. She doesn't have to give anything. It's her right to move a motion. So what we did, I mean, as a chairperson, so what we did, we sought leave or advice from the clerk of the assembly, and we asked him, well, what is the procedure? Can somebody bring a motion without saying why you're bringing the motion? Just bring a motion like that. And the clerk indicated, yes, as a member, you can bring a motion, long as it's seconded. You don't have to give any reasons. So at the subsequent meeting, at the next meeting, as a chairperson, I allowed Madam Teixeira to move her motion. And then I indicated, well, since the motion has to do with me, having no confidence in me, the decent and the normal protocol is I will recuse or step down, because of course a judge can't preside over his own trial. So I would step down from the chair so that the motion can go for can be deliberated and debated. We will nominate a temporary chair from the opposition and who will carry the process forward. This is just to discuss the question of the motion brought by Mrs. Gail Teixeira. So as a standard protocol and even as demanded by the PPP, I stepped down as chairman and I invited their four members of the opposition, myself, Jarita Fernandez, Jermaine Figuera, and Ganesh Paul. And I invited someone from the opposition to take the chair because, of course, standing order said it must be the chairman, even temporarily, must come from the main opposition. And all the other three chairpersons declined to take the chair. So with no chairman, the meeting was adjourned. So what we did, Khemraj, I mean, obviously we didn't want to stymie the work of the committee, so we called it the meeting the next available time. And at that time, the exact same Madam Teixeira re-raised her motion. I indicated, well, you mean you've raised the motion. The clerk has indicated your motion is valid. You can be raised. I recuse and remove myself once again for the same reasons. And once again, the opposition members declined to take the seat. And then we called the clerk once again to give us guidance, because obviously we didn't want us on the APNU, AFC side, didn't want to keep continually stalling it. And the clerk came and he was given some advice by by the government members that there is a standing order which says that if the chairman is absent or not in the vicinity, that the committee can elect a new chairperson just for the day or the day and a half. And the people who are attempting to elect a PPP chairperson outside of the standing orders, I think the opposition members that were there, I think Majority Finance objected, saying that you can't do that. That's unlawful, against the standing orders, against the Constitution. So the clerk said what is needed now is some legal interpretation. If there's anything within the standing orders or in the Constitution that can override the same clause that you mentioned, Khemraj, which is 82.2, which says clearly that the chairman must, and it's must in capital letters, come from the main opposition. And he received some legal advice, which I think you were able to review, Khemraj. So maybe you could elaborate on what the legal advice has stated and what does it mean. You have to unmute your mic. Your mic is muted.
My mic is unmuted.
Yes, we're hearing you now. You can, yes. What the legal advice that was received by the clerk? It's muted again, Khemraj. You unmuted it and then you touch again.
I'm not touching anything here.
Okay, we're hearing you. Yes, continue.
Yeah. It is important to understand the clerk asked the question, could Standing Order 82.2, which is that you must have the main opposition appoint the person, whether that could be overridden by any other standing orders. And the answer given by Lawyer Bess was that no, you cannot override that. And so the question was answered by the lawyer. Whether the lawyer now went on to make a recommendation of his own, well, that is fine. But the answer that was made by the lawyer was that you cannot override the Standing Order 82.2, which says that the chairperson must come from the opposition and the opposition must appoint that person. You are good enough to be a member of parliament, David. You are good enough to be a member of the Public Accounts Committee. Why can't you be good enough to be the chairperson? Because if we are the ones, the opposition appoints the chairperson, then you cannot have any change. And Gail Teixeira and Bishop Edgell saying that they don't have a confidence in you, and so they would prefer somebody else. If they want, they must go and change standing orders. But to change that standing order will be a major problem to the constitution of the parliament, which is the standing orders. They cannot change that without having some serious worries up their tails. They cannot, and they must not try to change standing orders like that. It is like changing the constitution. Because the press is peppering you, you're going to change the freedom of the press article in the Constitution. What nonsense is that? And that is why I cannot understand how they are misinterpreting their own lawyer answer to the question. Mr. Best made it quite clear. And they're giving the impression by virtue of their propaganda that you're recusing yourself is causing a stalling and a halting of the process. That is to deal with the public accounts. But it is their no confidence motion which ought to be disqualified, because by necessary implication, they cannot bring a no confidence motion against who the opposition has put in as the chairperson. So there is a necessary implication that that motion ought to be disqualified and thrown out. I will be urging that you go the next time on the Public Accounts Committee and say, by virtue of the fact that it is mandatory that the opposition has the appointment of chairperson, you can't do anything to get me out. And if the work now is being stymied, we proceed to the next item on the agenda and you just move on. Because they want to lay some groundwork to say that because the work is now being stymied as a result of this nonsensical no confidence motion, which ought to be disqualified, that they are now going to want to change and amend articles in that standing order. They cannot go there. I have gone through back recently the basic needs assessment from the PINDA, and there was another Englishman that came to do all these amendments to our standing orders to ensure that standing committees can get its work done and all of that. We could call witnesses and so on. In relation to this one, certainly you, based on the appointment of the opposition, must chair. And you proceed to chair and tell, if they don't want to sit in the committee, they can go right out of the committee. And that is what the position is. They can't go and amend and say that, well, the work is being stopped. The work has not been stopped as a result of the chairman. It is as of them wanting to get the chairman out. And what the reason for the no confidence motion? They cannot find a reason, because their now president had 19 charges against him. 19 charges, and we could not have touched that section article, the standing order 82, notwithstanding all the charges against Irfan Ali at that point in time. So what they are trying to do is to stall the work. They do not want scrutiny. They want control of everything. That is why I use the word control freaks. The PPP is a set of control freaks. They don't want nobody to look after scrutinizing them. And that is the whole basis of this thing. It has... That is my point about it.
Yeah, so I want to tell your viewers what really started this whole issue. Because we said as an opposition and as the chairperson that we were going to demand that the Auditor General does an audit of the COVID relief fund. You know that's
right. Yes.
You know what the cash grant that they were giving out. That I know plenty of persons in Region 5 and Region 6. Plenty of viewers here. They would have bypassed your village. They would have given you a pink slip for no reason at all. They would come out one day with a certain amount of money, even though they know your community has 1,000 people in it. They would come up with money for only 600. They would arbitrarily choose who the 600 should be, and then they give the rest. The other 400, they would give them this pink slip and said, oh, they'll come back to you. We, as the opposition, received several complaints on that, and I said what we needed to do is have it audited, because we found it was discriminatory. You know, I mean, they're bypassing persons.
Sure.
That there may be a level of corruption in it. We've heard money disappearing and all those things. And the very next meeting, because of course the chairman of the committee, you can instruct the Auditor General to do an audit. The very next meeting, this no confidence motion come up. But I want you viewers to know that irrespective of whatever happens, we will insist that there is an audit onto that relief fund, because you know, and all of you have known, I know in Region 5, I know particularly there's certain areas that were called saying that they've been bypassed. They give one person, one family in the yard and not another. They have different criteria. In some places, they said you have to be the owner of the building, and then in other places, you have to be a tenant. And then another person tell you have to pay a water bill. I mean, there's no water in your areas. You know, I mean, I don't know how the indigenous people were able to get there, if they were able to get it. So we set out, we have to find out what is going on. And most importantly, we wanted to find out, when are the people with the pink slips going to be paid? It's been that they started, it's been 6 months. They've set out all the money, $7-point-something billion in COVID relief fund has been expended. There's no more unless they come back to the parliament to get a supplementary to pay all you pink slippers. So we want to know where the money is gone, who's it gone to, and if there's any money, and if there's anything in the system that is preventing the person with the pink slips of getting their money. We would like to know. Then, of course, we in the opposition will join with the government in unlocking whatever mechanisms to ensure every Guyanese benefits from this. Because that money, Khemraj, as you would know, it's government money. It's not the PPP's fund. What should have been done? Is a bipartisan team should have been going out. I mean, if you're going into an NDC, you should have taken the reps from that particular NDC area with you, so because they know their constituencies and so. But that wasn't done. They sent employees, and we heard, and that's why we would like to audit that they're paying these persons, the 2 or 3 persons, $200,000 a month to go and distribute the COVID relief fund. So therefore, all of that money comes out of the fund, and maybe that's why, because all of their friends and families they hired, maybe that's why the money is short. So the very next meeting, very next meeting, ladies and gentlemen, there's a no confidence motion in me. Coincidental, maybe they were thinking about it, and maybe I opened my mouth a little too early. But that is the reality. And
no, but it is certainly the reality, David. There is massive discrimination, political and racial, in relation to this COVID fund. I have started this thesis that is what the PPP is doing here. And Berbicians are very gratuitous and very, honest people. They understand. A number of Berbicians are telling me that indeed the people with the pink slips and so on largely come from one ethnic grouping and are also inclusive of members of East Indian community who are AFC supporters. Because the people who they got distributing this kind of money were a lot of party supporters and officials, PPP members, and they're being paid a handsome sum for the distribution of the money. And they're going now to their people to ensure that they get the monies. That is why when we asking for the pink slip, how many people got the pink slip? Because it is a lot of people that got a pink slip. They don't want to tell us that, and that is why it is important that the Auditor General could do that kind of scrutiny, and then of course you can do also that scrutiny. You could even call up people who have the pink slips and have not been paid up to today to testify in that Public Accounts Committee. And we now change the rules. You could have the press being there. They don't, Bishop Wanegil and them don't want that. They want to hide all these things. And it's billions of dollars, billions of dollars. And if this thing is not distributed equitably, you're going to have huge problems in this country. Because people are not going to take it like that. And this is where they want to knock you off. And I don't know who they're going to put. Because if we say it is David Patterson, it is David Patterson it got to be. If we say it is the leader of the opposition will be Harman, it is Harman it will be. They don't have a say. So they're the ones who are stalling this process. And they get all the people in the newspapers and a variety of social media to talk crap that we are the ones that do not want to put up a person with confidence there. Look, confidence, it has a subjectivist thing about it. And if they feel that they are going to put up somebody that they want to, well, then you are knocking off the foundation of Standing Order 82.2. Gail Teixeira, of all people, must know that. She was there with me. We wrote the manual on the Public Accounts Committee. There is a manual out that it must come from the opposition, and the government party must accept that. Why is she now retracting after years and years of trying to get this Public Accounts Committee standing orders like that? I do not understand what they're up to, but you have put the motivation of it and the manifestation of that motivation by virtue of wanting to discriminate on how they would have spent monies, this being an example, the COVID funds. It is fundamental to understand why it is. They want cover-ups. They don't want investigation.
Khemraj, but you touched on a point which I want to elaborate as well, because you asked who they want to put. Now, what we have been told is that they would like to amend the standing orders. And in amending the standing orders, they would like to change it to say that allowing Mr. Schuman, he's not a member of the Public Account Committee, because obviously neither side selected him, they selected our persons. So they would like to change that clause, that word, main, delete that, say how it can be, and then it should be part of the opposition. And then just like they did with the deputy speaker, they would now remember, folks, here is not a convention that was broken. I let Khemraj explain it to you more in detail. But when you elect the speaker, by convention, the deputy speaker always comes from the leader of the opposition side. What happened in our first day of Parliament, and Khemraj can explain to you, when we nominated, I think, with Mr. Raphael Trotman, who was the former speaker, the PPP nominated Mr. Lennox Schuman. The government nominated Mr. Lennox Schuman and then used their majority including Mr. Schuman, who voted for himself, to vote him in. So I'm hearing from within, the annals of the parliament, that that's what they would like to do: amend the standing orders, delete the word main, and then they will go to the committee of selections, where you select persons, and change the numbers. So therefore, they're 9 now, they carry to 10 because the standing order says not more than 10. Put in Mr. Schuman, and then elect him as the chairperson, so they have one of their own as the chairperson. But you can explain, 1, the convention of deputy speaker, and 2, this plot they're heading towards.
But there is a difference between the two. In relation to the deputy speaker, it is not specifically and explicitly stated in my research as
Correct.
clearly as the Public Accounts Committee. This
Correct.
is a core and crux of the Public Accounts Committee. Unlike all the other committees where the chairperson generally comes from the government one, when we stated this in the standing orders in 2006, after making the various amendments at 2001 or 2006, I have it here with me. The thing was emphatic and unequivocal that it must come from the main opposition party. And that is explicitly written there for that purpose. It has a history, as I said, as part and parcel of what we took from England, but the purpose was financial independence. You cannot have somebody who do not have a conflict of interest dealing with issues of accounts. So if the accounts is being spent and monies are being spent by the government, you cannot have a government member who can chair that proceeding as to how the government spend the money. It is the best thing, as the years and years of parliamentary practice, it must come from the opposition, because it is the best way of not suffering any conflict of interest. You understand? And that is one. Now, to put Schuman, if they're thinking about that, let me give you an argument. Schuman is not necessarily today a member of the opposition. Schuman is today a member who has gotten a government job as advisor for $700 and something thousand. The PPP has put Schuman there. They've literally, salaried him into a silence and a conformity. That is what they have done in civil aviation. They have also made him a deputy speaker. And I think that there's something else. But whatever it is, Schuman cannot be regarded as one who would not have a conflict of interest now if he goes into the Public Accounts Committee to be the chairman thereof. In the entire Caribbean, people are going to laugh at that. Because how could he now be the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee when he is getting a salary from the government to the extent of being an advisor on aviation matters to the government? And that will make the thing laughable.
Khemraj,
but if the government wants to feel that they can go that far, it is going to create a lot of provocation in this country, because that is a major guardrail of democracy that they are going to dismantle. That is the whole point of it. You're dismantled. Conventions have the force of law, and you just can't go and change a law like that because you get a majority in the parliament. I am certain that Gail Teixeira will be having pangs of conscience, having struggled hard for that route, and now going and saying that we cannot name the person. I think she will have that. But then it is this fella, Bishop Edgell, who feel he can talk his way out and propagandize and bring Jesus Christ to Guyana here and say that, all kind of nonsense. You have to understand it is utter madness. I don't think they will go there, but that is only my opinion. And knowing the PPP, I hope that, as I'm telling the president, please, just like how when somebody wanted prayers to talk about the sins of the police force, and you quickly got some people wanting to knock the chaplain off, you cannot go and knock off the chaplain there. You got to understand that that is a convention. If the chaplain wants to pray for the sins of the police force. You have to have that being allowed and permitted as the convention. You know what, knock him off? And it would be better for the president to tell them that, please, let Patterson scrutinize our accounts. It will be better, and just like the chaplain praying for the sins of the police force.
Khemraj, just before I move on, I just wanted to, because obviously we like to be as factual as possible. So I myself asked the Minister Edghill, what is it he's paying Schumann as his advisor to him? And in addition to the salary you mentioned, I read it off. This is from his answer to me. He gets a duty allowance of $10,000, which is non-taxable. He gets entertainment allowance of $10,000. He gets a payment of all his phone bills, cellular and landline. He gets the payment for his internet and his place of residence. He gets provision of 24 hours security. He has provision of a 24-hour driver and a state vehicle. He has security at his place of residence. And he has payments of electricity charges at the place of residence. That is what is here in the response given to me by Edghill to the question, what is the security advisor, Mr. Lennox, earning? So on top of all that gigantic salary, folks, this is what he's getting. And that is the person that they're pushing to get there as their chairman. But Khemraj, I'd also want to tell you there's another issue which I'd also raised that that I wanted to flag that Public Accounts Committee was a question, and I raised it last year, and I think that you mentioned it. In last year, they came for a budget and they wanted $1.8 billion to buy some tractors and tillers from America for Gaisuko. And I said I would like that audited immediately. How is it that we're going to spend $1.8 billion to go and buy tractors from America to work in Guyana? I mean, there's no comparison, there's no study. We've never used these tractors before. It's sole sourcing. You know that the CEO of Gaisuko spent a lot of time. He just came back to Ghana. Spent a lot of time in Gaisuko in United States. So I said I would like the Auditor General and MPTAB to scrutinize that. $1.8 billion to buy 25 tractors or something like that. And that was, of course, the same time. And of course, right away, we can't even move forward because the people are stalling the Public Accounts Committee. And that's another issue that you want to look at. Khemraj, you know anything about these tractors? Were they bought? You know anything new about Gaisuko?
I understand that they were ordered by the CEO of Gaisuko, Cisnerai. And that is something that was very, very strange, as you rightly said. And of course, we said we're going to investigate it. As to whether the tractors have come in, from my sources at Gaisuko, I haven't gotten that. It will take some time before it comes in. But I can find out, and I can ask the Barbician sugar workers if they got any new tractors there. I think it is the John Deere model or some other model that from America that has absolutely no studies done as to whether the specifications there are going to be good for our grounds here in Guyana. I mean, look, the thing is laughable. The PPP came out of government in 2015 as a result of massive corruption. They just did not want to set up the public commission, procurement commission. They did not want to see how monies are being spent. And they've gone back to the same old habits. It's thief, they're going to thief from Gaisuko, from all the other arrangements, the COVID funds, and a whole set of things. And they do not want scrutiny like that we had shown by virtue of putting up all these institutions, the NPTAB, and so many, getting the Auditor General to do all that he can do. Of course, you will have this kind of thing where there are human beings. There will certainly be certain mistakes made and errors and a lot of things. But you must allow the processes to be abided by that we have set up. And those processes is what I think that they do not want a David Patterson there to ensure that, please, let's go and look after the Gaisuko tractors now. Scrutinize that. A special investigation into how that money was spent. They don't want. And we are telling them that they're throwing a lot of money into a black hole, this thing called Gaisuko. It is a black hole. But they want to service their members. They want to service their supporters with jobs and monies going there. And of course, in the process, a lot will be misspent. A lot will be stolen from COVID funds and Gaisuko. And Berbicians should understand this, because that is where the PBP wants us to go. And then they go borrow in this budget gone. They're borrowing $109 billion to funnel that budget. It is wrong, completely wrong. I have been saying this all along. The jargon used to teach us that, Berbicians. You know, you must only spend what you earn. So if you earn $100,000, you got to learn to spend that. You don't go borrow now and make your deficits big, 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 because then you're going to have to tax the people in future to pay for all those deficits that you have today. And that is where we are seeing that the government is going so much wrong, and they don't want scrutiny from somebody who's a fantastic quantity surveyor in David Patterson, who know these things very well and how expenditures and so on. What they want? They want some junior member on the Public Accounts Committee to be the person there? No, we want David Patterson, and we're going to get David Patterson, just like how they had their finale. We want David Patterson, and we can't, as we just didn't row about it in our last 5 years, they must not row about our appointee in this 5 years. And all that crap is just to avoid scrutiny, avoid a strong chairperson who knows the ropes in this, in that committee there, having served there before.
Yeah. So Khemraj and Berbice, I like the request you made. So people in Berbice, you look out. One of those contractors will cost you as a worker $72 million. So if you see any of these, and they're buying 25 for $1.8 billion. So if you see any of these $72 million tractors, I don't know what it is. It has to be a super fantastic job, and you have to be concerned. If you're going to bring in a tractor worth $72 million, they may not need you there. They may not need you, so they may be using you at this moment to put pressure. But the CEO may be bringing in tractors to mechanize $72 million tractors. So, in other words, you can lose out just by following them blindly and not questioning them and ensuring that the money that they use is used for you. And to benefit you. You know what any family or any community do $72 million. They have no mechanics. Everybody knows Gaisuko, you bring in a vehicle, it break up in a year. $72 million tractors, 25 of them. And they had the money since last year. They've ordered them. I don't know where they're coming from, as Khemraj said. We don't know when they're arriving. But if you see them, let us know and tell us what is different and so special for a tractor with $72 million. But
yes, I'll be urging the Berbicians to snap a photograph at which compound it is and send it for us. Lots of these smartphones could be used to tell us whether the things come in. And we can probably ask the customs and people here too as to whether those things are in. Because even when you ask the Minister of Agriculture questions now, he taking a very long time to answer, like in the fisheries license thing. And then when he answer, he sometimes just, disgracefully answer in the sense of chastising you more than answering the question. What you want to ask me them questions for? Look, we are going to hold them to account, and they must not be throwing propaganda and putting wool in people's eyes, especially Berbicians' eyes. They are up to wickedness, a lot of wickedness. And all of that thing about monies being, misspent and so on, that could only be scrutinized at the Public Accounts Committee. And the Public Accounts Chairman also making the demands of the Auditor General to go do special investigations. So that is why they want to get away from the thing. But we're going to catch them in their tracks, and we're going to ensure that we bring all the findings to members in Berbice here as to what they're doing with the monies that taxpayers are putting into the tilly. So it is important that you understand it in that context. There are
Khemraj,
lots of other issues that we got to talk about,
yes,
David.
we have 50 minutes. We're running short. Crime. You have any? I mean, I see
Look,
it in execution style. You want to say something on crime? You know so much.
oh my goodness, this thing has gone back, straight back. Just like how the PVP had it all along in right up to 2015, and then you try as best as possible to professionalize the police force and do a number of things, and get crime rates down, and we did get it down. The thing is with an upsurge all over again, execution style. Big one, big bust in Belgium of cocaine, to the biggest ever smuggled out of any country in the world, in the history. And we have it from Guyana here. Look, I am warning the Barbicians. To have gone back and put the PPP there is to put a lot of crime back on your table, put a lot of corruption back on your table. And I am hoping that it does not extend back to the piracies that we used to see. Every day now, you see domestic violence jumping high. Man chopping out your wife hand, man doing all of this to his spouse. I cannot believe it. And we will have a hype in the crime unless we get a lot of things done, because a lot of people feel that the professionalization that you started in 2015 through the works done by Russell Coombe and a set of experts and so on, and especially those previous commissioners, I like it going down the drain. All manner of things happening with the police force now, and up to now they can't get any way with what happened to Harry Singh and the Henry boys.
Yeah.
We cannot have anything, no positive movements in it. And Robeson Ben too. Now, he felt that, the prisons are not going to have problems. I told him we got to spend monies to build more prisons. I hope that he carried through that program that I had and ensure that there are better infrastructure. Now prisoners are escaping. They used to say it's like Ramjattan has opened the gate for the prisoners to come out. I don't hope that Hope Robeson is not opening the gate. But I don't want to get that kind of facetious with him. It is a serious problem we have of us at our prisons. And we have to bipartisanly make sure that we go there and ensure that these things are mended, that we get a whole lot of programs and projects done so that we're going to keep our prisoners in the prison. And moreover, especially the dangerous ones. And moreover, that we're going to set projects so that our young people are going to move away from a life of crime. But it seems because of this COVID and all, adding to the difficulties and challenges, a lot of people now going out doing all manner of things. And the PPP is in no way as to be leaders in relation to that matter.
Before we come off of crime and go on to something else, I want you, because you would have knowledge, to talk about our international standing. So since the PPP came back, as you said, they're the biggest ever drug bust in the world from Guyana. There was a 900 tons the other day. There's fishing in cocaine fish and in fish.
Yeah.
All started back again. There's execution, public execution started back again. How does this affect our international standing? Because as a minister, you would have interacted with
it will damage our international standing. It will damage our international standing. Investors that wanted to come in here now are going to think twice, because there's a new challenge and a new risk based on the risk analysis done by the impacts. Is that CARICOM body that have done things, and they're saying that kidnappings of people with money in Guyana could be another development out of this crime situation. People know, they know that people are not going to walk with monies because they walk with the credit cards or they walk with checks and so on. How they're going to rob people now is like what happened in Trinidad. It could then come over to Guyana here, and kidnappings and hijackings could be the new norm for people who want to get really bad in Guyana. And the whole thing about investment, when they see that in a country, they're going to hesitate because they don't want to be kidnapped. It happened in one time, an American official at a Lusignan golf club. Remember, he was kidnapped. That kind of thing smelled bad, danger, and a damaging investment climate for Guyana. And a number of the diplomatic circles have been talking about it, that why all of a sudden this thing has jumped the way it has done. And so we have to go do the investigations. The police force got to ensure, even if we got to now call in Scotland Yard people, I will be urging them to make sure that they call in some of these people from CARICOM too, to find out why it is that these crimes have taken on the shape that they have taken on here in Guyana now. Just only 8 months. And it is vital that we get it right. Otherwise, if we don't, a lot of things are happening with the syndicatos in and around Region 1 and Region 7, we now understand. And then the gold mining will be affected. People are not going to want to go into the gold mining areas because they're going to be scared. Correct. And the gold will be stolen and a whole lot of things. And investment is going to go downwards as a result. The PPP doesn't seem to understand how to deal with the crime situation at that larger level.
Right, Khemraj. I just quickly want to finish up. We have a last thing on COVID. Right now, as we stand, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a pandemic, a COVID pandemic. Today, we had 109 new cases. We had the total number of cases is 10,007, ladies and gentlemen. And we have March has been a particularly deadly month. We are up to now, there are 2 new deaths today, so 225 persons have died. So obviously, what we want to take this time to advise you that you have to take precautions. This is a very real pandemic. People are dying. Whatever you've heard, you must. There's been a rumor because Guyana is so sunny, and because we have so many open places that the virus doesn't spread as quickly. That's not true, ladies and gentlemen. You must wash your hands, you must wear masks, and you must have social distances. I know that this is a holiday weekend, and a lot of persons celebrate Pagwa, which is coming up on Monday. We are saying, and we're begging, we're using this opportunity to beg you and to urge you to do whatever you do extremely responsibly. In other countries, they've locked the country down from midday today until, because of the Easter and the holidays and those things, that to try and reduce the rates. We have not done this. We're hoping and we're supporting any mechanism by any organization, governmental or non-governmental, that looks to address this pandemic. Khemraj,
it is leadership. This thing requires, like every other thing, like crime and cocaine dealing and all of that, it's leadership. You have to denounce gatherings. And there it is. And only today, Dharam Lal there hugging up some girl without the face mask, playing Pagwa with so many people. What kind of example is that? And that is why in all the places that I had a curfew on, a certain curfew and things like that, and even bringing down the timelines for those curfews, they don't want that. They have a number of things going on. And so the leadership is that nothing will happen to us. We don't care. It's a don't care a damn attitude. And that is what is causing this thing. The increases is as a result of, in my opinion, a lot of people gathering and no enforcement. You go to the seawall, you go to a number of places, the streets in Georgetown, you go to the ministries like yesterday or afternoon, when was the last day for the work, and they're playing all over the place. Look, it is crazy. I mean, if you know your family members and you have your little collective gathering there, I could understand. But gosh, all over the place, and that is what is causing this problem. I hope that the president is going to chastise even his ministers for doing that nonsense that the ministers were doing. Because when he went to the cricket ground for the Regal thing and he saw the crowd there, he made some very strong points. But even if his ministers now not listening, it shows that there is where you have the problem. There is where the problem is. It's leadership. If you can't lead, you're not going to have the example being set for the followers. And then everybody going to want to go and do like what Dharamlal did. I mean, that thing is serious. And I would urge both Minister of Health and the President to have a chat with some of those people, because it is what is helping with the situation. Yeah, you got to lead by example.
Lead by example. Folks, we have 5 minutes to go. So I start wrapping up. There's an issue which I wanted to raise, and I probably would raise it again. It's the Berbice Bridge. Right now, as you know, the Demerara Harbor Bridge is unrestricted traffic because two of the spans of the bridge were damaged. So therefore, only trucks of a certain weight can cross, as well as the light traffic. So therefore, it's a huge disturbance with that. And I raised that because when I was a Minister of Public Infrastructure, every year there was a dispute on between the bridge. You can remember in 2018, the bridge people, they were going to raise the fares for a car from $1,900 to $8,400, and I put an order on. Even though the people criticize it, it's still there. They haven't removed it because they know what will happen. But at that time, the Berbice Bridge had claimed that they need to raise these fees so high because they need to do repairs, and they wasn't making money. So what our government did was include in every single budget, we included $180 million per year. We give it to the Berbice Bridge so that they could repair their pontoons, because the pontoons have been there and that bridge has been in the water since 2009 and has not been serviced. In 2020 budget and in 2021, there's nothing there. The PPP removed that money for that. And when I asked the minister, when I asked Edgel, how is the Berbice Bridge going to be repaired, he says to us, his response was that they will do that from their own revenues. People of Berbice, you have to remember that they wanted to raise the fares for you to cross because they're not making money. And the PPP has removed the $180 million per annum which we give to them so that they can and this 180 is in addition to the money we subsidize and pay for the toll reductions in toll. The Minister of Public Works says to us that they are going to do the repairs by their own money. Now it's 14 years and they haven't repaired a single pontoon. The life of a pontoon is supposed to be repaired every 3 years. So you have 39 pontoons there that has not been repaired in 40 years. The company has no money, and the only way they can get money is to raise the toll on you Berbicians, Region 5 and Region 6. And it appears, Khemraj, that the government has no clue in the government, and so they're waiting for a disaster to happen, and then they want to step in. But we're signaling it early to you Berbicians. Something has to be done, and something has to be done urgently. Khemraj, is a minute left, a minute and a half left. You can.
No. This is the duplicity. This is the deception of the PPP, and now they're finding the money, as they're saying, from this, the authority itself, the Berbice Bridge Authority. But look, Berbicians are pretty smart people. They will come to realize that this PPP is not good for them, notwithstanding all that has transpired over the years. And they have seen the quality and the character of the leadership provided. That Berbice Bridge is vital for the linking of our country. And if they don't spend money, they probably want it to break down. So then they're going to splurge a huge amount of financial resources. They might want to go into the oil money and then make a rip-off in corruption. If you want a proper bridge, then you have to do a proper feasibility and all kind of thing. But under emergencies, you spend money like hell. And that is not right for the country. So I think that is the groundwork that they're laying for the expenditures of a massive set of money when an emergency break out. And that is what they're good for. Berbicians, you got to know that this country do not have that kind of resources to go and, as the word is, the quarantine word, bilawe. We cannot do that. You must appreciate then what it is that the PPP is grounding, building the foundations on. It's a lot of corruption again. It's a lot of mismanagement. That sugar industry can't work. The COVID spendings was discriminatory. Can't work. Buying 40 tractor, 25 tractor for how much? $1 million, a billion? Yes, it's not working. And you know for yourself that sugar in that very expansive way doesn't have a future. We got to right size the thing, because plenty of your workers find it backbreaking. Plenty of you don't want your children to get in there. The ladies in the business of getting up early in the morning to go cook so that they go cut cane at 5 o'clock when the truck out there, they're not able with all of that. So we have to put other kind of diversified activities, and that is what we were doing. But it gone back straight. It is not good for you, Berbicians. And on this Saturday night, I want you to understand that whatever they're doing now, don't be fooled and beguiled by what they're doing. It is a lot of wickedness.
Thank you very much, Khemraj.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Khemraj. Thank you very much, Berbice. Region 5, Region 6, and other regions for having us in your home. I'm David Patterson saying good night from Alliance on the Move.